Hey guys, this is God of Politics. I'm welcome back to a brand new video, but before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But today's video, I'm going to be doing the 2020 election if Bernie Sanders ran as a spoiler candidate. I've put him in the green column, but he wouldn't necessarily be part of the Green Party. He'd be running as an independent candidate and he'd be trying to be president, and this would probably hurt Joe Biden, as you're going to see in this map here. So I'm just going to be filling in how I think the states would go if Bernie Sanders ran a third party campaign, and you also had Joe Biden versus Donald Trump in the meantime as well. So first, as always, we'll start filling out the safe states. I think, well, not for Joe Biden, all of these, there's going to be a lot of safe states for Donald Trump here, including Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, all Nebraska except for the 2nd District, South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, because, Wisconsin does have a lot of Bernie bros here, and while he didn't do well in the primary, he did do a lot better than some other people, or some other, people like Hillary did. Ohio will be safe, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, as well as Maine's 2nd District. So that puts Donald Trump at 225 safe electoral votes. He's already at 225 just for the safe column. And then for Joe Biden would still win California safe. He would still win New York safe, as well as Maryland, Vermont, not Vermont, Delaware, Massachusetts, as well as D.C., and so that puts Joe Biden at 111 safe electoral votes. Actually, also the state of Hawaii. So that's going to put him at 115 safe electoral votes. Donald Trump at 225 safe electoral votes. And I also do think that Bernie Sanders would win Vermont, probably by a safe margin. It's hard to tell how many of his supporters, because he's a very popular senator here, how many of his supporters would actually go over to the Bernie Sanders column for Joe Biden. But I do think that Bernie Sanders would likely win the state of Vermont, probably by a safe margin. Now the likely states, I believe Washington would be a likely state. It went to the Democrats by a lot. Bernie Sanders is going to take a couple points away from, maybe 6, 7 points away from Joe Biden in all of these states. I don't think he's going to do substantially well here because, he is a third party candidate. He doesn't have the same kind of fundraising. It's not the same as everything else if you're running as a Democrat or Republican. And people also have hatred for Donald Trump, which will probably motivate them more for Joe Biden. And Bernie Sanders' base isn't actually that strong if you look at him running a third-party campaign. It's just the progressive wing of the party, of which not all of them would necessarily vote for Bernie Sanders in a third-party campaign. So Illinois, I also believe, would be a likely state. I also believe that's actually all the likely states. So that's more now Joe Biden at 147, and then for Donald Trump, I believe you do a Nevada safe, likely, Nevada likely, Minnesota likely, Nebraska 2nd likely, Michigan likely, Pennsylvania likely, North Carolina likely, and Florida likely, and New Hampshire likely. So these are a lot of states here, some of which actually went to Hillary Clinton here. We saw that, Florida was very close now going by a likely margin just because there aren't actually that many Bernie supporters here. Nevada going to Donald Trump by a likely margin because of the fact that, Bernie Sanders did do very well here, might get a lot of votes from the Latino crowd out here, as well as actually Maine at large will be likely, and Maine's 1st will be likely Democratic here. So that, that changes the map a little bit. But all the rest of it is going by at least a likely margin, with Wisconsin, Ohio, Iowa, Indiana going by a safe margin too. That would be a very interesting result, purely because of the fact that it's the way the Democrats need to win. And, this is kind of a troll map in some ways because obviously Donald Trump's going to end up winning this election. He's already at 328 electoral votes just from the likely margin states. But it's also very telling that, this is what happens if you have a third party candidate that actually gets a significant portion of the vote. It's similar to what you saw in 1988 with Ross Perot. Who did he hurt? Did he hurt Bush or did he help Clinton? Because in this case, Bernie Sanders is definitely going to hurt Joe Biden. There's just no question about it. And so, with the likely margin of states, Donald Trump's already up to 328, taking a bit of the vote in all of these states here. Some states more than other states like Nevada, states like Wisconsin, states like New Hampshire too. So now the lean margin states, I think Oregon will be a lean margin. They say that Joe Biden actually won in the primary here, as opposed to 2016 when Bernie Sanders swamped Hillary in this state. And so I do believe this time it would still go by a lean margin, but it would actually be quite close, maybe around 3 points, which would be a 10-point swing to the right. Bernie Sanders probably getting around 10% of the vote here. Also, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, I also believe would all be lean margins because of the fact that they won by around 15 in 2016, and Joe Biden does do well in the Northeast, especially in states like Virginia, but Bernie Sanders would still get some of the vote, 10% of the vote, something like that, maybe a little bit more to be honest, just because Bernie Sanders is got to appeal to some of these voters. He did well here in the primary, and so I do believe that these states will be a lean margin, probably a bit closer to the likely margin here. Um, and then that's all the lean margin states for Joe Biden. He has at 180 electoral votes, and then for Donald Trump, I believe he'd win Colorado lean, New Mexico lean, as well as Virginia lean. So that actually fills out the rest of our map here. Not even any tilt margin states. It has a final map here of 355 electoral votes for the incumbent president, President Donald J. Trump, and 180 electoral votes for Vice President Biden, and then 3 electoral votes from Senator Bernie Sanders winning his home state of Vermont here. This would be a very interesting result because it would kind of hurt the progressive wing of the party eternally because of the fact that they were able to damage the Democratic Party nominee like that. And that's probably why Bernie Sanders, at least one of the reasons why he didn't run a third-party campaign this time, he was constantly asked, will you support the Democratic nominee? He always said yes. In a scenario in which he really wanted to take power, and he's kind of like a revolutionary in some ways. He really wants to take power. He would run a third-party campaign, but he's not going to do that. He stressed that he wasn't going to do that the entire campaign, and then he turns out he didn't do that. He's endorsed Joe Biden. But if he did run a third-party campaign, this is what I believe it would look like. It would really be a lopsided election. 355 electoral votes. That's not as big as Obama's victory in 2008, but it'd still be a very big victory for Donald Trump. Excluding 2008, it would be the biggest since 1984, or actually 1988 with Ronald. Actually, I'm not entirely sure because Bill Clinton won by a lot as well, but this would be a very historic victory for Donald Trump because one, it would squash the progressive wing of the party. Two, first of all, it would elect Donald Trump as the president again. So there's a lot of important impacts that this election would have, mainly that the progressive base of the party would be a lot less influential in who the party decides. Many might leave the party too. But yeah, this is the final map here. 355 electoral votes for Donald Trump, 180 for Joe Biden, and 3 for Bernie Sanders. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel as always. Follow me on Twitter and join the Discord as well. Those are both linked down in the description. So thank you all for watching, guys, and I will see you guys later.